Thanks for joining us. Welcome to our first Coffee with Coaches. That's a good crew today for our first one. We are sponsored by Dunkin' Donuts. Dunkin' Donuts is a proud sponsor of UMass Athletics. I know there's Tory's got his Dunkin' Donuts cup. He made his stop today. I'm drinking out of my UMass Yeti mug today. I've got some Dunkin' Donuts coffee in here. Kristi, what do you have today? You drink coffee?
Yep, I do. Black coffee in my softball mug.
Softball mug going. We couldn't get Greg Cannella. Technical difficulties. He's on here. You can hear him. Greg, say hello.
Hi, guys. How's everyone doing?
But you won't be able to see him drinking coffee, not only because you can't see him, but he doesn't drink coffee. Greg's a water guy in the morning, so we're having coffee and water with coaches this morning. Tory, Kristi, Greg, welcome. Good to have you guys on our inaugural Coffee with Coaches. I picked three great ones today because I know we're going to get some good insight from you. We're going to get some good quarantine insight, things that you've been doing. I want some updates on your teams and what kind of discussions you've been having with your student athletes. Thought about this concept in a way to try to get our fans engaged with our various coaches. We're going to have these programs every week. For the next, I think, 6 weeks. We've got 18 full head coaches that we're going to try to get through. And I enjoy catching up with you guys, and I thought our fans would do the same. So I'm going to start with our two spring sport coaches who were just getting their seasons underway. And unfortunately, COVID-19 came through, and we've had to cancel the spring seasons. Kristi, I'll start with you. Tell us what that was like, getting that news. You and I spoke just as you were about to take off for spring break for a trip, and we were fortunate enough to stop you before you got on the plane and everything. Tell us what that was like to get that news. Obviously, you saw it coming and have those conversations with your student athletes.
Yeah, I mean, it was obviously devastating, heartbreaking. It was hard. We were about to take off for Liberty, which I thought was going to be a really good tournament for us, our last one before we started conference. I think everybody kind of knew it was coming, just didn't want to admit it yet. And then I think when the girls heard that we were going to have a meeting at 11:30 right before we got on the bus at noon, something was kind of coming. But yeah, it was a tough conversation to have, especially for our two seniors on the team. There was a lot of emotion in our locker room, but I think we were still holding on to the fact at that time that nothing was completely canceled yet. The next day, obviously, it happened really fast, so it was a really quick turnaround for us to try to have to manage the way that we all felt. We tried to talk to the team a lot about that this is much bigger than us, and if softball or sports can play a role in helping people stay healthy, that they could take that and feel really good about it, that we were going to stop the season and stop moving forward so that we could help others become healthy, including ourselves. So, something that I'm sure hasn't quite clicked in just yet, but I think eventually we'll get it.
Yeah, that's a good message. What have you I know you followed up with a number of your student athletes. Tell us about those conversations over the last few weeks, and especially as they started to get back into classes this past week.
Yeah, it's been different. Before we started Zoom, we did our normal text message check-ins and then some phone calls, and then we're going to actually be getting on to Zoom together today individually with each class. But we checked in, made sure everybody was home okay and their families were safe. Talked about how school was going to become online. We spend most of our time online anyway, so they should have no problem with it. And then, kind of what our new normal is now and what they've been doing with their free time. And we've talked a lot about trying to get ourselves into a routine, what time we're getting up in the morning, following it up with whatever class we have, working out, reading a book.
Yeah.
Trying to stay away from Netflix now, which is impossible. But yeah, we've done a lot of a lot of checking in between myself and my 2 assistants, our athletic trainer, and our strength and conditioning coach. We have, besides seeing them or in person, it feels almost like we're with them all the time.
Yeah, that's good. Well, that's important, especially in this time and I think we've got the best head coaches in that way they've created that connection. You guys have done a great job of doing that and perpetuating that even through this tough time. I really appreciate those relationships that you've been able to build, because in tough times like this, those things are really important to key on. And I think communicating with our kids is paramount at this point. Greg, tell us about you. You were 5-2 going into this cancellation. You had a couple of good weeks, 4 straight wins, and including a win over number 1 in the country, Yale, and an early season win over Ohio State, who's a top 20 program. You guys were just really getting going and starting to hit on all cylinders. It had to have been tough addressing those 45 guys.
Yeah, it was. I mean, I think there was more uncertainty than anything at that point. So it was more important than lacrosse, honestly. We had heard the week before we were supposed to play Utah down on Long Island at Farmingdale College. And we had been in conversations with the folks at Farmingdale, the Saturday before. We had a Saturday off. We played at Long Island University on Tuesday. And those guys said they were getting shut down. Farmingdale was telling us they were going to get shut down. So we actually moved the game to Amherst, to UMass, for Friday. And so that Thursday, we went out and practiced in the morning. We weren't sure what was going to happen. We didn't really talk to our guys about it, although they probably had a feeling that something was about to happen. We met after practice, and then we went into film. And then when we went into film, Jeff Smith came down and he told me that they were canceling the Hockey East quarterfinal tournament. The quarterfinals at UMass. So, we met again with our guys and told them, hey, listen, we're canceled for this weekend. We'll keep you informed of what's happening. And then the following day, it was all shut down. So, again, like Kristi mentioned, it was very quick.
Yeah.
That it all happened. And I think people were more in shock than anything. The silver lining, a couple of days later, the NCAA came out and talked about the blanket waiver that we have all been talking about recently here. And so it gave our seniors hope that they could come back. And I think that was a real positive for the guys as they left campus.
Yeah. Yeah. And I want to get into that in a bit here, because I want to get your feedback, all three of you, on that waiver from the NCAA that just came out in the last 48 hours. I've been telling people that week before our spring break, and you guys just referenced it, Greg and Kristi, about sort of that Wednesday through Friday and how quickly it all happened. I'm going to tell you, that felt like 3 years, those 3 days. It was like the longest. I will go back and always think about those days. I had so many calls, one-off calls with each of you, calls with our A10, calls with the NCAA, Hockey East, all my colleagues across the country, just none of us knowing what was going to happen, and all of us trying to figure out what is best practices. We had the Ivy League was the first one out of the gate the weekend before, or the earlier that week, and they canceled their men's basketball and women's basketball championship. And everybody, I think, raised an eyebrow and said, whoa, what? And they took a lot of heat for that too. And it was pretty prescient, their decision to do that. And I remember reading just some student athletes, Ivy League student athletes, that were really disappointed in that leadership. And boy, 3 days later, we were all shut down, including spring championships, from the NCAA. And it just, I've never seen anything like it. I know you guys probably haven't, and I hope we don't see anything like it again in our lifetime. It's been a wild trip, but I think in the best interest of as Kristi mentioned, just the health and humanity and safety of people around the country. Our young people, and I know a number of them were headed off to spring break and made the right decision to cancel any spring break, sort of leisure trips that they had. And Kristi and Greg, your teams were ready to go on the road and compete at some point during that week. Or Greg, you had that home game against Utah. But I think in the long run, we made the right call, especially seeing where our country is right now and all the challenges we're having. Kristi, it's hitting your home state pretty aggressively right now. I know New Jersey,
Yeah.
with its proximity to New York. Have you talked to folks down there about what they're going through? And it's a little bit different than us in terms of sort of the ingredients associated with social distancing and being at home and sheltering in place. What's the word you're getting from your family and friends?
It's bad at home.
Yeah.
I've got my mother and my middle sister are both in the healthcare profession.
Oh.
So it's been really hard for them. My sister has a year-old nephew or a year-old son, and it's been hard. The other day, she told me that her hospital, they made them masks with rubber bands stapled to the side and said, you got to reuse these for a couple days. So they were supposed to actually come up here this weekend, and that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
For a lot of obvious reasons. But my other sister is a lawyer, and they've had to shut down for a couple of days because of this. But her boss is trying to get them back in so that they can help people and be around people. So it's bad. It's been really hard for them to be around each other, and just hearing about it's devastating down there. Being so close to New York, and then they're very close to Philadelphia, where we are in New Jersey anyway.
Yeah.
So yeah, a lot of concern, a lot of worry, but for right now, everybody's healthy.
Okay, good. We'll keep our fingers crossed. Tory, you were at a different point in your year. You had concluded your regular season in your A-10 tournament. You won 20 games this year, man, which is tied for the most in UMass history, which is just phenomenal. What you've been able to do the last 4 years, and going 20-11 this year. I think we captured the 5th seed. Is that correct?
So we actually finished tied for 4th.
Tied for 4th.
And we got the 5th seed for the tournament.
And then had a great win to open up the conference tournament. Then went to Dayton and dropped a heartbreaker, a tough one, to St. Louis. Great year. Give us a quick brief on your year, how happy you were with our progress, and then sort of that messaging. We thought we had a good chance to get to the WNIT. So even though your season was really over from a conference and regular season standpoint, we thought we had a chance to get into the postseason. You had to tell the women that wasn't going to happen. Tell us about that.
Yeah, I mean, we were very fortunate, the fact that, our season, was concluding. We were wrapping it up, and, it's just, we were all in disbelief and with the events that were taking place. But, we tried to be really, really proactive in communicating, what was occurring in the national scene. And so, our players kind of knew the possibilities and where we were, and I knew once the Ivy League canceled their tournament, it was going to happen, and so our players, again, we try to be as proactive as we possibly could have been in communicating the possibilities. And then once, they, were realized, it was devastating. And you had 2 seniors who had end their career, and, we had the opportunity to, get into the WNIT, which hasn't happened in a long time here, and was something that, our players and our seniors worked so hard for. So to have that cut from underneath you was extremely difficult, but we understand the circumstances, and, we talked about our season, and we talked about the growth and development from where we started from to where we are now. We've come full circle. I think that our seniors really, they understand that, they realize that, and they have a lot to be proud of. Haley Lydell, had the opportunity to, tie or become the leading scorer, all-time leading scorer in the history of the program. She was 17 points shy, of that occurring. and I think that for her, that individually, was devastating. But to finish second all time is pretty good as well. But as far as our program goes, from where we were 4 years ago to where we are now, it's unbelievable. And but I've been fortunate. I have I have a great staff. I think that our culture is unbelievable, and it all starts there. It starts with the kids that you recruit, the kids that come in, and we've recruited really good character kids, and we've been successful both in the classroom and on the basketball court and in the community. And so there's a direct correlation there with all three. But from my perspective, I'm extremely proud of our players and everything that they accomplished this past year.
Yeah, I'm glad you highlighted Haley. She was one of your first recruits coming in. She's a Michigan kid. You were at Eastern Michigan. I know you had identified her when you were there, and she was she bought into what you were building here and has had a really remarkable career, finishing second all time in scoring. And I think she's one that 10 years from now, when she has eligibility for the Hall of Fame, is probably a pretty good bet to be in. But the growth that we've had in her 4 years, and really coinciding with your first 4 years, pretty typical. The player development pieces. I mean, she had a great freshman year. Don't get me wrong; she's super talented. But what you've been able to do to develop her game, I think what we've seen you do with developing the other women in your program, you don't lose too much this year. Obviously, you lose Haley. That's a huge loss, and you've got some other pieces. But we've got we've had some transfers sitting out. We've got some good ingredients coming back. You got to be excited about 2021.
Absolutely. And I think that you look at the additions that we've had, one with Sam Breen, and I think, and if everyone, you don't know who Sam Breen is, you will. And she's a transfer from Penn State, had to sit out a full year. And, we really worked to just, develop her. And it was more of a mind thing than anything else, just getting her confidence back and the love of the game. And so, she had to sit out a full year. And so she didn't start until after Christmas, excuse me, and, really hit the scene. And, was our leading scorers, averaged 18 points a game in the 8-10, and made the second team all-conference team. And I think that, with the addition of Maddie Sims, I think those two guys, I think we're going to have, possibly the best front court in the 8-10. And then you look at the addition of Desiree Oliver at the point guard position, transfer in from Temple, who's extremely, talented. We tried to recruit her, my first year when I got here, and she wouldn't give us a sniff. And so to have her transfer in, I think that shows you where we were as a program to where we are now, and getting their respect and, people understanding that we're relevant now as a program. So that to me is exciting in itself. We have Destiny Philoxy, who's returning as well, who will be a junior. So I think that her growth and development will continue. So we're excited about, the pieces that we have returning. We may have some pieces here falling into place in the next, week or two. And I just think all together, I think we're going to continue to move this program and get it to where it needs to be.
Yeah, good. Got me sold. We're about 20 minutes into this Coffee with Coaches, sponsored by Dunkin' Donuts, great partner of ours. Dunkin' is still open, including the one on University Drive. The drive-thrus are open there, so if you get a chance, and I love Dunkin' coffee. Tory's drinking it this morning. Get a chance to support all of our local businesses, especially here in the Amherst area that are, struggling with not having business open. A lot of them, especially restaurants, aren't able to serve people in person and are doing takeout orders and things like that, and try to frequent those as much as we can to support those businesses. But Dunkin' Donuts has been a great sponsor, and they wanted to jump on Coffee with Coaches. That probably says a little bit about you guys wanting to sponsor you. I wanted to ask you guys a question about, sort of what you've personally been doing during this time. It is all of us sitting at home. I know the three coaches on here, you guys cannot sit still. Tori, you're in the office right now. I know nobody's near you, but you're in the office to get away from your 3 kids at home. Your pool's not open yet, so you may be lounging by the pool in a month or two. But what are you guys doing to stay sane and to stay active and to kind of work yourself through this period where we're home and kind of sheltering in place?
I think one, you got to have balance, the first thing, and I think that, the family time, and it's something that, during the school year and during the season, you lose a lot of, and so trying to, spend that time with my kids, and obviously my wife, doing stuff together at home, playing games, we have board games at night. So that's something that we haven't done in a while. So just, spending that time with them and watching them go out in the driveway and shoot and, and do things like that with them that we haven't done in a while. But, besides that, I got the honey-do list, I'm like the handyman, I've been fixing things that haven't been fixed in like 4 years since, I moved here. And
finally
so
have time.
My wife is pretty excited to, see the faucet stop leaking. And the fact that I painted, 2 rooms and things like that. So like my list is long, but I'm shortening it. And, it's just hard for me personally to just, I'm a taskmaster. If anybody knows me, it's like, I feel like I have to be productive each and every single day. And then I got to cross things off as I go through my day. And then then I look at my day. Okay, it was a great day because I was able to do, A through Z,
Yeah.
So it's hard just to, kind of just hang out and just watch movies. But I'm watching a little TV too. A couple things I've watched. Tiger King. I'm not sure if you guys have watched that.
I haven't seen it, but I have read about it online, and I am saving it. I told my wife, I said, this is why I'm just getting unbelievable responses from people I'm following on social media. I said, I cannot wait to see this.
It's something that it's wild, and I'll just leave it there. And all I can do is when I watch, I just shake my head because I can't believe, this is how people actually live. But and I won't go into any more detail because I don't want to ruin it. But also watching All American. So that's a pretty good series there on Netflix as well. But really just trying to stay busy, professional development, really going back through watching games that we played in the past, watching instructional videos, looking for any gimmicks, any things that we could change defensively and add offensively too. So I'm doing that just to, help myself and improve as a coach.
Good. Kristi, how about you? What have you been doing in this downtime to keep
I'm
yourself
also
sane?
very task oriented. So I am very used to getting into the office and writing on my notepad a list of things to do. So I had to figure out how to do that when now I'm staring at the same 5 rooms every single day. But like I said to my team, I try to get into a routine. So I've been FaceTiming with my nephew twice a day. So we do that every day. Mid-morning, we watch Elmo's World and sing Elmo's World. So try to get some family time in there. I've got an elliptical and some free weights here. So that's my workout time, which I savor very much. That's my mindless activity anyway. We get on a Zoom staff meeting probably every day. If not Zoom, we'll FaceTime each other, my staff and I. And sometimes we're just on to talk about whatever. And most of the time we're talking about softball. We've also been watching some old game film, see how we can get better. We've been going over recruits because this is a big summer for us for recruiting, which I hope happens. Yeah. Whenever the weather is nice, I've been getting outside. And I tried the first couple days, I was really into Netflix. And then I think I real fast, super fast. But on the days where I need a little bit more mindless activity, I'll turn on Netflix. I've been into The Crown big time.
Ooh, The Crown. Yeah. Okay.
Good. My sister has watched it, so I passed that on.
Tell us about it. What is it? I don't even know.
If you're a fan of the Royals, then you're going to love The Crown. So it follows Queen Elizabeth from when she became queen. I think she was 25. And it's 3 seasons, so it doesn't get too deep into it.
Oh,
but
wow. Okay.
yeah, it's pretty good.
All right.
I
Cool.
also am saving Tiger King.
Okay, you haven't watched it either, so
No,
I'm
the
not alone.
team has watched it, and a lot of them are trying to get me to do this Netflix party with them
Oh,
and watch it. But I am also saving it because I have heard a lot of stuff about it. So yeah, just trying to stay as busy as possible, get in some good FaceTime with some family. And I just, try not to go mad.
good. Hey, Greg, how about you? You and I spoke earlier this week, and you had told me about some of the things you're doing. You got a lot of outdoor activity. I know your wife is keeping you going, and she's an active outside person, likes to work out and go on hikes and stuff. What have you been doing to tell the audience what you've been doing to stay fresh? And
yeah, it's I think all coaches are the same. You know, as Tory and Kristi mentioned, we try to keep a strong schedule. I'm trying to keep a regular schedule where you get up and work in the morning, and then work out somewhere around mid-morning, go back to work for an hour or two, and part of that is being in contact with our guys, our players, regarding their academics, and then obviously about what's happening for the future here. And then typically in the afternoon, you know, for the last, when you think about it, all of my life, but certainly we're not involved in spring lacrosse. And for me, it's the first time in 48 years that I haven't been involved in spring lacrosse. And so I make sure that I get 2 or 3 hours outside in the afternoon, whether that's kayaking, hiking, or working out again. I think it's really a good time for everyone to consider their health and well-being and do a lot of training and try to get themselves square. I know that in season I don't do a great job of it, honestly, especially on cardio. And so I've been trying to do as much of that as possible. And again, go back to work after that and then have dinner and try to hang out with the family a little bit. My son is home from college. My daughter is a senior in high school. They're both learning remotely right now. But to get to have a chance to hang out with those guys. And like Tory mentioned, you know, we're watching some old games. I have been, a couple of guys from the 96 team sent me a game. We played Duke at home on Garber Field and won 13-9. And it's funny because you look at the film and you look at the scoreboard. 1996 was the first year of the old scoreboard. 2020 is the first year of the new scoreboard. So it took us a while to get a new one there. But I also am involved in doing a couple webinars. One an informational one, and another one is going to be a tactical one.
yeah, good. You guys are developing yourselves, which I love. I thought, Greg, to your point, you know, getting back to having some time and getting back to a base of, you know, physical activity and stuff. I told my wife, who is a coach like you guys and now is sitting at home with me, I said, boy, we're going to have some more time to be able to do some things and work out together and do all this stuff. And then this is just the typical, I don't know if you guys can see that. No, probably not. It's a little dark, but it's my schedule. And I think I'm busier now with Zoom calls than I had when we were all going to the office and having to get together, because organically when you're in the office, as you guys know, you're just getting a lot of work naturally done, talking to your staff in the hall, whatever it may be. And now you gotta intentionally schedule all those things, all those connection points, and make sure things are moving forward. I think I'm busier now, and I find it hard. I grab my cup of coffee and I don't end up going back up until about lunchtime when I have the opportunity to come up for air and grab something to eat and then go right back I'm in the basement. I've got a little office space here in the basement and been able to decorate it. You can see some UMass stuff, a couple of Georgia Tech pieces here. Got all my different sporting life, a couple of Yale pieces and Ithaca pieces. So I feel like I'm at home, even though My wife sits upstairs and I sit down here, and again, we get together for lunch some days, if possible. And it's a whole new world that we've had to encounter here. The new normal, as Kristi put it. It's been a little bit hard to swallow, and you guys have alluded to in your comments just about, you know, how much we all enjoy. You get into this business because you enjoy people. You enjoy dealing with young people and your staffs and the camaraderie that you build and competition. And now we don't have the ability to be around people. We don't have competition anymore, except, Tory, you got game nights with your 3 kids, which I wish I had. That's the only time I wish I had 3 kids built in, you know, for about an hour and a half a day, maybe, to get some games going.
Well, you'll get there.
That was a good time.
It is a good time, you know, and because you can't get that time back, you know, and so and it's funny, you know, because you never know what kids are going to say. Yeah. And so as you're playing these, you know, games and the words that come out of my kids' mouths is just like, where in the world did you learn that? And some of them think like they're so funny, you know, and they just cracked me up. But
you learn a lot about your kids when you play board games. That's what my parents used to say. Yeah. Are your kids, Tory, what have they said in Hadley? And Greg, I know your daughter's a senior. What have they said? Are you guys just through the beginning of May is when they're delayed until? Or
yeah, May 4th.
May 4th.
And then are they getting homeschool right now? Are they getting remotely taught from their teachers? How's that all going in Hadley?
Yeah, it's remote from their teachers right now.
And my kids hate it. Like they want to go back to school, you know, and I recorded it. I'm like, okay, I'm recording this because, you know, I want you to hear it, you know, down the road. But no, they miss it. You know, they miss their friends. They miss their teachers. You know, they're doing everything that they can as well, as far as having, you know, Zoom calls, you know, with you know, their peers and their teachers as well. So, you know, they're doing everything that they can. It's not the same, obviously, but they're adjusting to it.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, my daughter actually doesn't mind it. I mean, you know, she's 17. If you guys remember when you were 17, you were like vampires. They don't go to bed very early, and they had to get up. She has to get up at, you know, 5:45 every day to get to school by 7:15. So I think she's enjoying this, you know, sleep till, you know, 10 o'clock, 10:30, get up, do your work kind of schedule. I think and she's a senior, so it's very different for her. And not involved in any athletics, so she's not missing that as well.
I remember my senior year in high school. It was about now when I decided I really didn't want to do much work, and I just wanted to enjoy. I wanted to play wiffle ball with my friends every day, and enjoy the spring sports season. But you know, that's the one thing I think, outside of obviously competition with our seniors, are those that have their 4th year of eligibility. And thank goodness that the news from the NCAA is they're going to get that year back. All of our student athletes in the spring are. But just the you know, I remember the senior year in college, just how enjoyable that was the last 2 months of your senior year. And you just savored. I remember just thinking about the relationships, and like, I may, you know, my close friends I knew I was going to see again, but there were a lot of peripheral friends that I would see every day, and I would say, man, I don't know if I'm going to keep in touch with this person. And it just was great to kind of spend that last few months. Unfortunately, all the seniors at UMass and across the country are losing that opportunity. That's a tough scenario. Greg and Kristi, I know we just have gotten this news from the NCAA, and Greg, I'm going to let you answer first, because I know you got to get to a 9:15 call here for the Lax backers this morning. But this news in the last 48 hours, it's great news. Get eligibility back for our seniors. I know we've had some decisions to make on, and students have had decisions to make on if they want to come back for another year. They've already kind of planned their life out into next year. But I was a proponent of it. I think it's a great move by the NCAA. Obviously, this was taken away. Just tell me your first thoughts and impressions on the news and what that will mean for you guys.
First off, I appreciate your support on this. I think it's so important for these guys. and a great opportunity for them to get the opportunity to come back and be part of and finish something off, from a standpoint of being here for 4 years, like you said, not being able to finish it, not being able to finish their senior year, and then having the opportunity to come back for a 5th year. I think it's fantastic. And I think, again, if there's anything that was positive out of our last meeting was the fact that, hey, there's going to be an opportunity for you guys to come back. And I think that there was a couple smiles on the way out from our seniors and even the other guys that really enjoyed their leadership. And hopefully we can get 6 or 7 of those guys back to be part of our program again for another year, and their experience finishes off the right way.
Yeah, good. Greg, I'm going to excuse you so you can get on that call, man.
Thank you, guys.
Being
Sorry,
on
I couldn't see my face. I don't know what my technical difficulties are, but I'm not great at this stuff either.
Don't worry about it, man. It was good to have you on here. Good to hear your voice.
All right. Take care, all.
Hey, Greg.
Kristi, from your standpoint, just as a sport, softball, I know you probably talked to a lot of your peers. What's the feeling about getting this year back across the board? It's not just going to impact this year's senior class, but you're going to have to now, I want to kind of get your thoughts actually on, you're going to have to now start planning for, are there going to be 5th years? And what does that mean a year, 2, 3 years down the line for how you're allocating your equivalency budget from a scholarship standpoint? Because that's it's not just a 1-year snapshot. You got to think about it for a number of years.
Yeah. I remember the morning that the NCAA was going to vote, my stomach was turning. I knew they would vote in the right direction. It was more of, how am I going to budget for this? How am I going to do this and fight for each kid? Because it's not just the seniors all over the country that are getting their year back. It's every kid that was impacted by this, every grade. So I remember calling my staff and I was like, how are we going to do this? And where do we start? And they did a pretty good job of keeping me grounded and talking to me about just think about what's important right now and then move forward from there. But I think it's fantastic that they've given everybody their year back. I think it makes it a little difficult for us coaches, for you, for universities, to really put the pieces together of how we're going to move forward. But from a recruiting landscape, it's going to be a little different. For me and how I do my recruiting, I've already got players that are done. My class is done for the class of 2021. That would be our rising seniors, their graduating class. So that would be the first class it would impact, and it's going to take some time to figure out how we'll do it. I think from a roster size, it's all kind of crazy. From positions, that's all kind of crazy of who we already have coming in and who would like to stay. There's a lot of stuff that's gonna go into it. It's, if you really think about it all at once, it'll make you go crazy. But
yeah, you've got you've got a daunting role. Your sport, especially, like it's not like lacrosse where it's the fluidity. You've got kids going in and out. You've got so many spots, and you can't. It's hard to carry even 20 student athletes, let alone you get to 23, 24, and now you're trying to keep everybody happy. You're trying to get playing time. Softball and baseball are ones that have particular challenges in terms of that. It's not like a basketball or lacrosse or some of those other sports where you can get kids some game time and be able to do that. Have you, with your 21 class, how deep do you get into assigning scholarship values to them? Are you already into that process, at least to forecast that? I mean, that's 2 classes away, but I got to imagine you've already slotted some of those dollars.
Yeah, I already have. And that's how we do it. And I think what's helped, or what will help this situation anyway, is the rule that has come into effect that you can't have scholarship conversations with players until September 1. for our next class, which would be the class of 2022 that we're recruiting. So if anything, that's what will catch me up with all of this, is that we have not had any conversations with any player from the class of 2022, which would be our rising junior class. They would be replacing them. So that at least gives me some time and some room to sit down and think about, okay, how can we do this if these players would like to return for an extra year? And if they do, it will change the landscape of recruiting. So the positions that I will recruit, which will change what we'll do for the class of 2023. So once the dominoes hit, I'm sure it'll hit hard, but it's a little bit more difficult in our sport. I've talked to a couple of my colleagues from all over the place in different divisions, different conferences, and we're all in the same boat. So it's happening all over in the sport of softball. Other bigger conferences, it sounds like it'll be a little easier. But as far as how people are going to recruit and how we're trying to allocate some scholarship dollars, we're all going to be in the same boat. It's going to be tough.
Tory, were you at all surprised? I mean, winter sports athletes were on the docket. It was voted on. They decided not to give those student athletes a season of eligibility back. I understood it. Obviously a number of programs, men's and women's basketball and ice hockey, all the other winter sports had really completed their seasons. What were your thoughts on that? And I know selfishly you would have loved to have had another year for your class, your senior class, and some of the underclassmen, but thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I agree with the decision. To be honest with you, like selfishly, yeah, absolutely would love to, have those guys come back. But also like from my perspective, like it's exciting when your seniors leave because now like you become a new team, so that to me, and you start thinking about the future, that's exciting to me, and you're going to be different from year to year to year, but our season, was winding down. We concluded it, and the only thing that stinks is the postseason. But I don't think we're going to allow that to define us. I know that I know what we accomplished. I think the people around us know what we accomplished as well. And now it's just about moving forward. It stinks for all those seniors and those who don't get the opportunity to experience postseason play because those are lasting memories and they'll never have those opportunities. They'll never be able to get that back. The whole one shining moment and, to be a part of a tournament and championship play, is an unbelievable feeling, number one. And, and the connections that you make with your teammates and the memories, it's tough to digest that you won't have that opportunity this year. But I think that everybody knew that this was coming. And, and I think the way we handled our situation, moving forward, just being proactive and communicating to our players that, this is a possibility, I think, and plus our successes, this past season just made it a little bit easier for those guys to go out. Good.
Well, I know it's the end of a session when I got to get more Dunkin' Donuts coffee. You guys have been great. This has been fun. It's our first one. I picked the right three. You guys did a great job. Particularly excited. I know this is a tough time. Thank you so much for your investment in our kids and our programs. I'm excited for your two programs especially. I know you've got young groups coming back. A lot of opportunity in the next few years to continue to grow. Excited to see what's going to happen in your programs. For our fans out there that haven't been to women's basketball or softball games, you got to get there. Great kids, great energy, great culture, good team dynamics. Two programs certainly on the rise. And guys, thanks for joining us this morning on Coffee with the Coaches, sponsored by Dunkin' Donuts.
Thanks for having us.
Good to have you here, guys. All right, have a good day today. Take it safe, be safe, and get a little bit of workout in, maybe a little Netflix. Kristi, I want notes from you. We got to coordinate when we watch Tiger King. Maybe the three of us will get back on here and have a conversation about it.
Well, I'll have the team tell me how to Netflix party. We'll get it together.
There you go. Good. Guys, enjoy. Hey, happy April. Finally, we're in April. March felt like it was 10 years long.
I know.
All right, guys, have a great day. Thanks for being on. See you guys.